Welcome everyone, it's Deborah here in the Costa Blanca in Spain with another Dichroic fused glass pendant video, which I hope you will enjoy, and where we're going to make these Tack fused pendants. These can be made in a normal kiln or a microwave kiln. This is one I made a while ago in using a normal kiln, and these are quick and easy with amazing results. And this is another pendant that I made using the same method. This has got a little bit less relief in it, texture and detail, because I fired this in the microwave kiln and you've got a little bit less control in there, and it's slightly gone a little bit softer than I would have liked it, but it's still okay. But basically the preparation is the same for whether you're going to fire it in the kiln or the microwave kiln. So, first thing you're going to need to do is decide on the size of your pendant, what shape you want, whether you're going to have it square. Obviously you can have it rectangle like an ingot shape, diamond shape, which does tend to come out nicely, and what glass you're going to use. And you can use a variety of glass. You can use your textured glass, non-textured but patterned Dichroic. You could just do one made out of plain Dichroic pieces, or just have plain Dichroic in with your textured. You can have clear, because it's going on a black background anyway, so the clear will show up. You can have the clear up, you can have the clear down, so you can create a variety of different effects by the actual pieces that you pick to go on your pendant. And if you're going to use clear and you use it face down as opposed to face down as opposed to face up, then that will create depth in your piece as well. This is just a tack fuse, so you have more control in the kiln as to how it turns out. And it also keeps its texture and relief detail, which is nice. Also, another advantage to tack fusing is that you can have thinner pieces, because it's not going to get up to such a temperature that the glass is going to try and go up to 6mm. So you can create thinner pieces using a tack fuse as well. So I like to prepare a lot of pieces. I've got some in the kiln ready to go now, and I've also got a mould on the go in there from a previous video. So I will be doing a tack fuse, and I've got some fire polish pieces in there as well. So I will be doing a tack fuse fire polish firing in the kiln, doing a lot of pieces together rather than just putting it on for one or two. So for the purposes of this video, I have a nice square there. If you've got a cutting board, it helps. If not, you can use a template of a square, or you can just measure it out on the glass yourself. By using it as an exact square on here, I can then choose to have it as a diamond. So that's what we'll do for that. So I'm going to use a black base on this one. Obviously you can use any colour you want. And I've got a little bit here of glass that was made on the end, so it's like got a rolled end on it, which you can find other uses for, especially in scenic pieces. That makes a nice edge. If you wanted of a mountain or the sea or whatever, obviously not in black. You wouldn't want that in black, or you might do, depends what you're doing. You could be doing a black and white piece. Anyway, this is a rolled edge, so I'm going to use this because I won't see the bottom of this anyway, so I might as well use it up in this piece, and it is almost the size that I want anyway, so I'm just going to trim that down. And I'm going to fast forward through the cutting bits. So when you've got the size of your piece, bear in mind you'll want to be splitting it into threes either side, so you can put 9 pieces on if that's what you intend to do. Obviously you could just put 4 pieces on if you wanted, but for this project we're going to do 3. So you're going to need something to measure to decide what size each of your pieces is going to be. So this is 2.5 centimetres, so I need to know how many threes go into 2.5 centimetres. And as we all know, 8 threes are 24, which is fine because it allows me a millimetre spare, because you're never going to cut them exactly right. But that's near enough anyway, is what I'm trying to say. So now I'm going to cut my 9 little squares out of these pieces of glass that I've got here. And just remember, when you're deciding what pieces to put with what, that just check to make sure what colour that they're going to turn out, that you want colour combinations that are going to go together, and decide if you want like a nice bright shiny piece with lots of different colours in, or if you want it to be more coordinated. Clear pieces, put them on black, you'll see what colour you're going to get. So when you hold them up, they look like you're not going to see much, but as soon as you put them on black, you can see that the colours do stand out. Okay. So I'm just going to mark this. I'm just going to cut a load of them while I'm here. So if you've got a board like this with the tiny squares on, then this helps when you're cutting out. If not, you could make yourself a little template of the size that you wanted, and make sure that it's divisible by 3 so that you can get your 9 squares in there. Okay, cut them as straight as you can. Don't worry if they're not exactly, because with the pieces on top you won't notice. And if you haven't cut them quite straight, which I hadn't, you can go to your glass grinder and just straighten them up a little bit. So now we can cut the little squares out, and again, same process. I'll probably cut a few out, because I guess if you're going to make these, you'll probably want to make a whole batch of them. Maybe not. Maybe you're just happy with one. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all these out. I decided to record the cutting out and then fast forward, just so that in case anybody did want to watch it. So I've cut out 3 strips using my guide here. Now I'm cutting the squares out. I've got to take a little bit off the end, which isn't going to be easy. I might have to grind that off if it won't come off. It certainly won't come off with these. In fact, I'll do it first, but it might come off with these, although I didn't quite catch the end on it. And I like to hold this. I don't like to cut my hands. Okay, well, that broke off rather than pulled off, but it achieved the result I wanted. So I've cut all the pieces out. I've got a pile of them here, and I'm just going to clean the glass with alcohol first. Now what I would normally do now is put my kiln shelf here with the kiln paper on and compile them on here so I can just carry it over to the kiln. But because I've got pieces in the kiln already, I can't do that. So what I find the best way to do this, so that you can move them if you're not going to glue them, well, even if you're going to glue them, you've still got to move them, but I'm going to prepare my pieces of kiln paper. The kiln paper that's already in the kiln, which I've used for the previous videos, you will have seen is still the same paper in there because I've only been doing tack fuses on it, so I haven't had to change it. But for the purposes of transporting these, I'm going to put some of this new kiln paper in there, and this will just lie on top of the kiln paper that's already in there. Right, so glass tack it if you want to, hairspray it if you wanted to hold them in place. So now it's just a question of arranging your pieces, and I'm cleaning them, each one, how you want them. They're not going to be exact squares. It's impossible to cut exact squares. As long as they're not too different, they're fairly similar, you'll be okay. the colour's not going to change much because we're only doing a tack fuse. You have more control over the colour, so you're pretty much going to get the colour that you're seeing. Now I'm just going to put a variety of colours in here. I'm not sticking to one particular theme, but I am going to add a variety of textures. If you get one that is really out of shape like that, you can just use your grinder to put it back into shape. And these didn't cut very well for some reason, but no worries. It's handmade jewellery. It's not designed to be perfect. If somebody wants something perfect, they need to get it off a machine. Right, so I've got some of the Dichroic, this clear stuff, facing upwards. I'm going to put some facing downwards to create a little bit of depth. And what you can do as well, which I have done with another piece, I think it was the piece I sold, I didn't put one in the centre. That's an option, just leave the centre empty. Or what I did with the other one was I just filled the centre with some frit. I had some cherry blossom frit that I thought would look nice in there, so I added that. Okay, and then this one, I'm going to use that on that one because I think that we need a couple of pieces of that patterned in to balance it out. And that's it. So then, plenty of squares left there to make some more. So now what I do is I slide those off actually onto something like this mat, anything that's solid really, so to carry it over to the kiln. In fact, I could have just done it straight on the mat. And then I can carry it over and put it straight in the kiln then. I'll just pull it off onto the kiln shelf using the tweezers. So next day, these have come out of the kiln and they haven't quite got to a high enough temperature to create the softness that I wanted. And it's because I had a mould in the kiln at the same time, which has taken a lot of the heat away from them. So, I mean, that one's not too bad. That was on the edge. But this one is. But if you look at this one originally, see how much softer that is. And because the pieces on this have melted a little bit more, they've become more uniform. And that's what will happen to these if they are melted at a slightly higher temperature. So I could put them back in the kiln and they'll be fine. They'll come out not quite as much as that because that was done in the microwave kiln. Or alternatively, I can put them in the microwave kiln. So I'm thinking that I might do one of each. One in the normal kiln and one in the microwave kiln. I think what I'm also going to do as well is when they go back in for their tack fuse, it will fire polish them as well. So I'm going to take one of the corners off where I'm planning to put the bail. The reason being that if I say I was going to put it up there, if I was to put that on there, well, with these particular bails, it would stick out a little bit at the sides, which I don't like. So if I level that off, the bail will go on nicer. You could use a different type of bail, like this one for instance, to put on, but you have to be so careful with these that they do, because it's such a small surface area clinging to that, they don't always glue well, hence that's come off a piece. Look, it's still got the glue on it. So that's just something to bear in mind. If you're going to get bails, try and get some that have got a big surface area so that they can adhere well to the piece. Okay, so this is the one that's going on the tack fuse in the microwave kiln. Based on my kiln, the fact that it's cold, the fact that it's only one piece, the fact that I did one yesterday for $8.50 and it wasn't quite enough, a different piece, I'm going to do this for 9 minutes, just over 9 minutes. I think will be fine to tack fuse that. Well, we'll see. Abracadabra, that's done. Which is done. It's done nicely. It's still hot, so I can't touch it at the moment. So that's come out of the ordinary kiln now, and yeah, that's fused nicely. Nice piece there. And whilst I was doing that, I did a few others as well. The only thing I would say is you may be better to use glue if you're not in a rush, or hairspray, because as you can see with this one, these pieces slipped. But otherwise, yeah, the others are nice textured, interesting pieces, all ready for their bales. This one here broke. This was the one that was done in the microwave kiln, and that can happen sometimes with the microwave kiln because it doesn't go through the annealing process that you get with an ordinary kiln. So just something to bear in mind. So what I'm going to do, because I've actually got some others that I'm putting on the tack fuse, I'm going to do something a bit different with this one. I bought some bits of glass that had got patterns on them, just some little small squares just to experiment with. So I'm thinking I'm going to put one of these on the top. There was that one as well. So I'm going to use this one with the spots. I'm going to put that on top of there, which will seal it all together, and I think it will look quite nice with the spots on the top. I'm just doing it on the tack fuse because these pieces that I'm putting in now are going on the tack fuse, so I thought I'll just try that. It's too high to have a full fuse, it would blob out. Well, how annoying is that? It slipped. I glued it with glass tack, but it just shows how they move in the kiln, the glass, how it moves. You can see it slipped a bit that way and a bit that way, and it's actually come out very pretty. Those dots look really nice. So what I'm going to do with this is grind it down into a nice shape and put it back in the kiln on a fire polish, which should sort the problem out. And here it is. All that needs is a bale, and it's enhanced it, having the spots on the top, which incidentally they are Dichroic down. Now the piece at the bottom is Dichroic up, but because it's not a complete piece of Dichroic, it's only spots, obviously the glass can adhere to the bit below between the spots. So I mean, if you could do a cross section, you'd probably see that the Dichroic spots are not actually fused to the Dichroic underneath. So in a way, you can use Dichroic down sometimes, provided that you have got sufficient ordinary glass to adhere. In any event, that's quite nice. So that's going to have a bale on it. Now these two, which I did, I thought I'd grout them. So another little experiment. I like to try different things, and so I put some white powder in and grouted them as if they were tiles, and then put them back in to the kiln on a tack fuse. It's not done much really. Could have done with a bit more of the powder on there. Probably not a great experiment, but you've got to try these things, haven't you? So what I'm going to do with these two is, because they're a little bit higgledy-piggledy on the edges, I'm going to grind them down, and because I think they're going to look a lot nicer when they're even, and then refire them. However, I've got water in my glass grinder, and it sees the engine in there, the motor in there, I believe. So I've got to buy a new one. Unfortunately, this is my broken glass grinder. So if anyone wants to know what the inside of a glass grinder looks like, there it is. And isn't it simple really when you think about it? The on and off switch, apparently that's a capacitor, I've been told. And this is the fan on the engine. on the motor. And what happened was I have it in this little tray here to stop the water dripping everywhere. I didn't realise that the water was actually, because I've got it that full that much, it was spurting out, and this was filling up, and this filled up with water, and I didn't realise. And this fan sits at the bottom. This is the lowest point, and it was just enough to get in the fan, the water that was in there, and obviously it squirted it up into the engine, into the motor, sorry, which has caused it to seize, because I can still hear there's a little, when I switch it on, you can hear it, a little buzz in there. So I know the electric's still getting in there, and I have put WD-40 on here. And I can now actually turn that with my hands. I couldn't do that yesterday. But even so, it's still hard. I'm giving it a bit longer anyway. I've put some more WD-40 in there to ease it. And I'll leave it another 12 hours and try it again. But in the meantime, it looks like I've got to buy another glass grinder. So I'm not a happy bunny about that. But there you go. That's a lesson to be learned. And hopefully you'll learn from my lesson too. So I've had to use my Dremel to tidy these up, so it's a little bit of a longer job than I anticipated, and I've cut the corner off at the top while I was there to put the bail on, but it's tidied them up a bit and they look better, I think. So I'll put them into fire polish and put the bail on, and they'll be ready, and you'll see them in the final photos that I do. So that's it for this Tack Fuse special. I hope it's given you some ideas and showed you how things can work out or not work out, as the case may be. And these are ones that I'd finished, that I didn't do any more to, that I just added the bails to, so they're finished, photographed and up on the internet ready for sale. I'll just show you these nice bails that I've got here, that patterned bails. Somebody was asking me where I got my bails from on one of the Facebook groups, and I get them from AliExpress. So whilst I was sending them the link, I went on to AliExpress and I noticed these there, and I thought, oh, they're pretty, and they're got quite a big hole for getting your cords or chains through. Some of the cords have got quite big ends on them. And I just like the fact that they were patterned and the shape of them as well. So I thought I'll add those to a few of my pieces. And there we go. Another bunch of pendants to sell. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. And please like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you wouldn't mind, because I don't always get chance to post on the Facebook groups, and I don't want to bother people, you know, get on their nerves, keep putting posts on the groups that I've released new videos. So if you have notifications, at least you get notified yourself, and then I don't have to bore everyone. So that's the idea of that, and I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers if I can, and I've had quite a few views on the last videos. So it would help me tremendously. It doesn't cost you anything. Just click a little button, and same with the subscribe as well, because I've got lots of more ideas and lots more videos, hopefully, to get going with and get up on the internet. So thank you very much for your support, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye from Spain.